Welcome back to the Veteran Teacher Files. I'm your host, the Dragon Lady. Today's episode is about my first couple years teaching, or the years where I technically had a career but still furnished my apartment like a squirrel with a Target gift card. So, before we get started, let me just say this. If you're having cereal for dinner, I see you and I feel you. Because honestly, for several years, cereal was my dinner. Yep, there was a time in my life where I was teaching full-time, enrolled in a master's program at a UC, going through a divorce, emotionally exhausted, and surviving almost entirely on teacher appreciation promotions and frozen meals. I thought I was just adulting. So, when I was 17 and a senior in high school, I was a teacher's assistant for a special needs classroom. And it was, in my memory, I remember it being later in the school year. Like, in my memory, it was 2 to 3 weeks before the school year ended. And the teacher that I was working with me turned to me one day and just asked me, like, are you still considering going into teaching? And like I said, this is like towards the end of the school year, so everything's already been submitted. I've already been accepted. I'm going. So I just turned around and looked at her like, yeah, yeah, I'm going to be a teacher. And she was like, well, you'll be okay as long as you're married. I was 17 years old and I was ready to throw down for sexism. So, it's the 90s. I'm Spice Girls. And I get it. At the time, I was like, oh my gosh, she's so backwards, she's so old. And but now I get it. I totally get what she meant by that, because the truth is, the only periods of financial stability I ever had were when I was able to share the expenses with somebody else. So if I had a roommate, if I had a boyfriend, now that I'm married, the years that I was alone were straight up survival years. And I think for a lot of teachers, yeah, you might understand exactly what I mean by that. So let me paint you a picture of my apartment during those first couple years as a professional, my professional adult apartment. I had 2 very cute IKEA cardboard boxes pushed together with a folding tray on top as a coffee table. And I had this really cute vintage vase, which I still own because, even though I'm struggling, I still have like this artistic, vibe or whatever. My mattress was a futon mattress and it was just on the floor. My dresser was an item that I found on the sidewalk. Yep, one day I was driving my little Honda Civic down the street and there was this dresser. It looked like it fit in my car. I pulled over, checked it out. It didn't stink. It wasn't stained. So in it went. And yeah, I changed out the hardware, put in some scented paper. I don't know. It was like auditioning for budget HGTV. But anyways, I had a dresser and everything from my apartment basically came from 3 different places: IKEA, Walmart, or a thrift store. Straight up, my clothes was from a thrift store, my books were from thrift stores, my classroom supplies were from thrift stores. And by when I mean books, I don't mean like the books that I was reading. I mean like the books from my classroom library. And by clothes, cardigans, sweaters, button-up blouses. I even bought shoes on eBay. So yeah, if Goodwill had a loyalty program, I would have qualified and I would have had platinum status. So I was educated, I had a career, I was in graduate school, and from the outside, I probably looked like I had it all together in my really cute vintage outfit. Or I like to think vintage, it's just straight up thrift store. But yeah, my furniture looked like it was a community theater production of adulthood. Food was something else. Last week, the school that I currently work at had Teacher Appreciation Week. And there's this guy on staff. He's new to the profession. He's 20 years old. He's one of our clerk too. So a clerk, a para, teacher assistant. Lots of different names for these roles. So someone young and new to the profession. And I was telling him, hey, you have a badge now. Did you know that Chipotle gives out free burritos? And he was like, that's cool. And then I shared with him this story. One time, I drove around to 8 different Chipotles. 8 to get their burritos, just so that I could freeze them and have food on hand. Another time and I'm sure I'm not the only one, I created like 3 different email accounts so I can get some Subway coupons for some sandwich promotion they were doing. So yeah, when you're overworked, underpaid, and emotionally hanging on by a paperclip, free food starts to feel like a competitive sport. And honestly, those burritos carried me emotionally for way longer than they needed to. But beneath all the jokes, there was also some moments that kind of hurt. I remember this one time I was standing in the frozen food section at Walmart, and I was debating, holding back tears, on whether or not to put back the stool that was in my cart or to get the frozen pizza that I really wanted. Yeah, that was it. I was deciding between buying frozen food and buying a stool for my class. Not designer shoes, not luxury makeup, a stool, because I was so physically exhausted from standing all day. And I remember it was just like, do I want back support or do I want pizza? And it wasn't even good pizza. Like, not knocking on all the frozen pizzas, but it wasn't like I was going to Mountain Mike's or something. So anyways, nobody really talks about the financial brutality of those years. But yeah, those years can be brutal. There's also like this weird shame. Like, people don't expect you to struggle if you're educated. Like, you have a degree, you have a career, you're getting your master's, so like, you're financially okay, right? Meanwhile, I'm Googling, scratch that. I'm probably asking Jeeves, how much can someone get paid for donating eggs? Asking for a friend. And somewhere between like desperation and dark humor, I even considered topless waitressing. Now, just to be clear, I never did any of these things, but when you're financially stressed for so long, your brain just starts opening up all these tabs of random possibilities because you're in survival mode. And I think more people understand that than are willing to admit out loud. But here's something else. I didn't grow up financially stable. My dad never graduated high school. My mom has like a 4th or 5th grade education. So there wasn't any college savings waiting for me. There wasn't a roadmap on how to get to higher education or to get education or just a roadmap. There's like nothing. So when I got into a UC program, it was a huge deal for my family. Sorry, I had to pause because I'm thinking, wait, not even the UC program. My family was excited when I graduated high school. Like, that was a huge accomplishment for my family. So the fact that I even had an apartment was a success to them. And it was a success. So sometimes we forget that accomplishments can exist at the same time that we're struggling. Just depends on how you look at things. So yeah, compared to where my family had started, I was like a rock star. I'd climb mountains. So, they didn't care if I was eating frozen burritos from Chipotle. They were proud of me. So looking back, I guess you can say I'm proud of myself too, because I was super exhausted. I was overwhelmed. Man, I was ready to cry over any minor inconvenience. So yeah, I was resourceful and I was mildly aggressive. I had IKEA engineering. I was coupon strategy savvy. And I had this like thrift store interior decorating with itness. So yeah, at one point I had all the survival skills of a depression era grandma, just like trapped inside my graduate student body. So anyways, yeah, those years shaped me. Those years shaped me as a teacher. Because when you're financially struggling, you notice things you wouldn't notice otherwise. So those years taught me to notice the kid who's wearing the same hoodie day after day after day. Or it taught me to see what exhaustion looks like. It taught me to feel what hunger feels like in the classroom. And those kinds of things help you notice when other kids are trying to quietly survive. So yeah, struggle leaves fingerprints, and surviving those years made me more compassionate than comfort ever could. So if you're listening to this and you're struggling financially, especially if you're a young teacher trying to hold it all together, I want you to know this. Your apartment doesn't have to define your worth. Your paycheck doesn't define your intelligence. And survival seasons are not forever. At least, I hope not. And sometimes success looks glamorous. And sometimes success looks like 8 Chipotle burritos. So, yeah, both of those things count. So before you go, I want to hear from you. What's something ridiculous, creative, or unexpectedly funny that you've done to survive a hard season in your teaching life? You can share your story in the comments or message me. Yeah, I think we're all a lot more resourceful than we give ourselves credit for. So thank you for listening to the Veteran Teacher Files. I'm the Dragon Lady. See you next time.